Would you agree that everything is made from something? We know that pencils come from trees. We know that milk comes from cows. But what exactly comes from the brain? If you guessed neurons or brain cells, then you're correct. But what exactly is a neuron? A neuron or nerve cell is the functional unit of the nervous system. Neurons transmit information between the brain and body to help you process everyday information about the world. Matter of fact, your neurons are sending signals to different parts of the brain right now, and they're the reason you're able to listen to this video and read the words on this slide. Thanks, neurons! Because neurons help us with everything, neuroscientists long time ago thought that there were as many neurons in the brain as stars in the Milky Way galaxy. However, it's very hard to estimate the exact number of neurons in the brain because neurons are so dense and intertwined with each other, as you can see in this picture. But recently, scientists have been able to stain certain parts of the brain and better estimate the total number of neurons. Through staining, they found that there are about 86 billion neurons compared to the Milky Way's 200 to 400 billion stars. Even though there are not as many neurons as stars, this is still an enormous number. So, how does the number of neurons compare between humans and different animals? As you can see, fruit flies have the least amount of neurons, while elephants have the most amount of neurons, and thus a larger brain. Does this mean that elephants are the smartest creatures alive and humans are not? Not exactly. Ability is dependent on where your neurons are located and how they connect with each other. Despite having 3 times as many neurons, elephants still have fewer connecting neurons than humans in areas of the brain responsible for intelligence and higher cognitive functions. So to answer your question, no, elephants are not smarter than humans. However, majority of the elephant's connecting neurons are located near the cerebellum, which produce balance for its movements and its large trunk. The number of neurons in different parts of the brain and their connections determine the type of information that we can process.
Neurons are very similar to other cells in the body. Each neuron is surrounded by a membrane which protects the cell from its surroundings and selectively allows certain substances to move in and out. The cell is filled with a jelly-like liquid called the cytoplasm, which is mainly composed of water, salt, and proteins. In neurons and most other cells in the human body, the cytoplasm contains all of the material inside of the cell but outside of the nucleus. The nucleus is a fully enclosed spherical structure that contains all of the cell's genetic material and regulates activities such as growth and metabolism. The entire neuron cell body is known as the soma.
Neurons are designed to receive and transmit information through chemical and electrical signals. These signals come from the environment or other cells and can be transmitted throughout the body. There are 3 main types of neurons: sensory, motor, and interneurons. Just imagine being face to face with your favorite dessert. Between locking eyes and grabbing the irresistible delight, these 3 neurons quickly work with each other. As you make eye contact with the dessert, your sensory neurons send these signals from the sensory receptor, in this case the eye, to the brain. Your sensory neurons are also activated when you touch, taste, smell, or hear something. Once the signal reaches the brain, your interneuron connects the visual signal with your muscle signals. After connecting, your motor neurons send the signal towards the muscles of your arm and ultimately allow you to conquer your favorite dessert.
Neurons have 2 types of extensions. The first kind are branches on which information is received. These are known as dendrites. The second kind is a longer tail-like structure known as an axon or a nerve fiber. Axons transmit information to nearby neurons or muscle cells. Most neurons have multiple dendrites and a single axon.
The axons of many neurons are surrounded by a fatty covering known as the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath increases the speed at which axons transmit signals through the neuron and helps prevent the signals from degrading. Some neurons have a myelin sheath while some don't. For the ones that do, unfortunately, the myelin sheath can be destroyed by a rare disease called multiple sclerosis. In multiple sclerosis, a disease that attacks your central nervous system, your own body can consider your myelin sheath as a threat, damaging it and preventing nerves from sending and receiving messages. This lack of communication can ultimately lead to weakness, paralysis, and coordination issues.
Neurons communicate with each other through junctions known as synapses. The most common type of synapse is a chemical synapse. In this type of synapse, neurons do not touch. Instead, the end of an axon, known as the axon terminal, on one neuron is separated from another neuron via a gap called a synaptic cleft. Small compounds known as neurotransmitters can cross the synaptic cleft and transmit information between neurons or between neurons and muscle cells.
Through this synaptic mechanism, many different neurons can interact with each other. Scientists found that a single neuron can receive messages from more than thousands of neurons, as you can see in the picture. This connectivity between different neurons is very helpful for studying how neurons process information. Scientists can also study these connections to better understand a variety of diseases such as depression, schizophrenia, and Alzheimer's disease.
There are several different classes of neurons. Purkinje neurons are found in the cerebellum and have many branching tree-like dendrites. They are essential for regulating and coordinating muscle movement. Pyramidal neurons are among the most common neurons in the cerebral cortex and are also found in the hippocampus and amygdala, a part of the brain related to experiencing emotion. They have a pyramid-shaped cell body and many dendritic branches. The connections between different neurons in different parts of our body play a huge role in how we process thoughts and how we show, recognize, and control our emotions.
In addition to processing conscious thought, neurons can also help us with reflexes. A reflex is an involuntary response that's not consciously processed by the brain. Have you ever touched a hot stove and immediately jerked your finger away? Well, that's a reflex. Your brain is able to move your finger before actually thinking about it. Let's look at this more in depth. Similar to the example with your favorite dessert, your sensory, motor, and interneurons are involved. When you touch the fire with your finger, the sensory receptors in your finger send electrical signals. However, instead of connecting with interneurons in the brain, it connects with interneurons at the spinal cord. This allows for a more rapid response. Once connected, the touch signal passes through the motor neurons and activates the bicep muscles to quickly react by moving the arm away. At the same time, the sensory signal is sent from the spinal cord and into the brain so that you can eventually perceive the pain. This reflex pathway shows how you can react to pain way faster than you perceive it. Pretty cool, huh? Reflexes protect us from danger and do the thinking for us when immediate action is required. Thank you, reflexes. We hope that in this video you learned just how fascinating the neuron is. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.